My name is Mira Patmaraja, and I'm honored to be serving as the moderator for today's parallel session titled Connecting the Local and Global Classrooms. Quite appropriately, our audience is, I believe, global, and our panelists are speaking from many countries. And I myself am based in California, where I serve as the education director of a platform called Bluebrick School on bluebrickschool.org. We are yet to launch, but it's an education technology initiative of an international education nonprofit that I co-founded called Visions Global Empowerment. So that's just a little brief bit about me. And before I begin introducing our panel, I did want to acknowledge and thank the organizers of this Sustainable on-the-Go virtual conference that's been hosted by York University and co-organized by York International, the UNESCO chair in reorienting education towards sustainability, and the other international partners for enabling this presentation and discussion. It's a real exciting conference, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I think we're all glad to be a part of it. So in today's session, we will be having 3 panels, and the time allotted for each of the panels is 10 to 12 minutes. The remaining 15 to 20 minutes will be for discussion. So I would request all of the panelists to really have your timer out and try to stick to your time. And then after the presentations, I will open up the discussion with a couple questions, and then I really hope there's time for us to also take a couple questions from listeners. You're welcome to drop your questions in the chat, or you can, I might actually have you do that, drop your question in the chat, and then if there's time, I'll call on you. You can turn your video on if we have time, or I'll just read it out. And if you didn't hear the earlier announcement or mention, please, if you're not a speaker in the conference, could you please mute your audio and video throughout this panel? Without further delay, allow me to introduce our first panelist. And we're going to do that with Robert James Didham. Robert currently serves as the UNESCO Chair on Education for Sustainable Lifestyles. He is also the director of the Center for Collaborative Learning for Sustainable Development and is an associate professor at Inland Norway University of Applied Sciences. Welcome, Robert, to the floor. Robert, I think you might be on mute.
Hello?
Okay, yes.
Hello, bonjour, konbanwa. Thank you, Mira, for your kind introduction. I would also like to thank the Sustainable on the Go organizers, especially Charles and Catherine with the UNESCO chair, for the opportunity to participate in this event. At the Center for Collaborative Learning for Sustainable Development, where I work, our work focuses on education for sustainable lifestyles as an important subset of education for sustainable development. Today, I would like to share some of our lessons learned from this work, which takes an overall focus on active and collaborative learning for sustainability and aims to create strong personal, local, and global connections through these approaches. The importance of education as a foundation for achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs is well documented, and it is noted that their success will depend on individuals throughout their lifetime acquiring relevant knowledge and developing positive attitudes to address global challenges. In this session, we are asked to consider how to connect local and global. But from our work on education for sustainable lifestyles, we also add a key focus on connecting learning at a personal level. Often, a traditional approach to environmental education or education for sustainable development may start by addressing global issues and challenges related to sustainability. And in step, this may aim to scale these issues down to address their relevance at a national level, and then potentially at a local level also. We, however, see value in turning this around by beginning sustainability learning with a focus on creating personal connections in relevance to the learner's daily lives. From this point, it is then possible to expand out to the local level through active and experiential learning. And with these strong foundations, we find that it becomes easier to relate the learning to the global aspects of sustainability. There are several principles that guide this work, changing from a problem orientation towards a solutions orientation, promoting active, engaged, and critically reflective learners, providing opportunities for cooperating together towards creating a better future, asking questions about what we value and what we care for, learning that is situated and takes place in the community, shifting in focus from individual to interconnected, both in terms of how we address topics and knowledge, but also how learners work together, and strengthening systems thinking and interdisciplinary approaches in our education activities. Ultimately, though, this work aims to equip learners with the needed capacity to make conscious, pro-sustainability choices in their daily lives. Now, I would like to share some specific examples to highlight how we apply this approach in our work. In our teacher education programs, we have coordinated a series of interdisciplinary modules that occur throughout our students' study program, and with multiple of these modules addressing the theme of sustainable development, others taking up themes like citizenship and democracy, public health, and life skills. For the first-year students in the teacher education program, they begin their studies with an interdisciplinary module on sustainable development. This is the first week of teaching they receive, and a key highlight of this module is group action projects on local sustainability. Applying a strategy for change model, student groups identify a challenge in their local community that they want to work with. Through a series of facilitated inquiry and planning steps over 3 days, and with guidance sessions from teacher educators, the students must design an intervention that they will implement to help make a positive influence on the selected issue. The students then implement and document their actions that they take. At the end of 2 weeks, the groups come back together to present their actions and participate in reflection sessions. By reflecting on how their actions connect with the Sustainable Development Goals, we also aim to strengthen a perspective on local actions for global goals. In addition, we have also developed an international study abroad semester focused on education for diversity and sustainable lifestyles that primarily brings in students from other countries, but it is equally offered to our students here in teacher education as an international semester at home to provide another chance and opportunity to share perspectives from different countries and with students coming from around the world. Another area that we work in is designing learning approaches and materials to support active learning for sustainability. One such example is our toolkit Playing for the Future, which specifically explores personal connections with the Sustainable Development Goals. The toolkit offers 2 different games, the Responsibility Roulette and the SDG Dice. And with each game comes 3 different activities or learning lessons that provide a progressive level of complexity to the issues that are explored. These activities use playful learning to develop scenario thinking and systems thinking. The Responsibility Roulette explores how different actors can meaningfully work with the Sustainable Development Goals, while the SDG Dice examine how different lifestyle aspects impact on the SDGs. Our center also provides capacity building for in-service teachers and works with schools to provide curriculum support. One example here, working with a local primary school, we have helped them to better understand how they can work with the new interdisciplinary themes, which include sustainable development, that are now part of the Norwegian curriculum. Key to this work is also a focus on how the value basis of the curriculum is embodied across the school environment and also how students can actively participate in this development work at their school. This process facilitated participatory reflection, mapping, and design processes, and it also engaged all school staff at different levels. A special project group went on to pilot and test out new teaching models as part of this work. And this has led to a new project this year, where the school has embraced a whole school approach towards sustainability, and they have run a 3-week school-wide learning module with all the students from the school involved, focusing on our city, where the students explored different aspects of the local city and made proposals about the future they would like to see. The final example comes from a project we developed with a Portuguese environmental education NGO that they went on to run across many schools in the country. The focus here is on creating an inquiry-based and action-based learning process grounded in community-based education for sustainable lifestyles. In addition to identifying local sustainability challenges, students undertake an investigatory process at the local level, which includes meeting with and interviewing many local stakeholders about the selected challenge. They then not only implement a local change action, but they also engage in dialogue with local and national governments on the importance of these issues and actions. To sum up, our work targets the development of sustainability competencies, which directly relate to the 5 Ps of the Sustainable Development Agenda shown here. And when we apply a perspective on education for sustainable development, we can see these competencies directly matched with these 5 Ps. For planet, this means developing students' critical awareness and reflexivity to create personal knowledge constructs. For people, for planet, it means education that promotes holistic, integrated interpretations of knowledge and whole systems thinking. For people, it means developing students' critical awareness and reflexivity to create personal knowledge constructs. For prosperity, this means learning that is oriented towards problem solving, practical experience, and the search for new knowledge and innovations. For peace, it is about empowering socially aware and responsible citizens who appreciate interdependent relationships between themselves, with society, and with ecosystems. And for partnership, it is about developing cooperative learning relationships through deliberation, democratic dialogue, group meaning making, and social learning. These 5 aspects may be understood as the main lifelong learning skills promoted by Education for Sustainable Development. Thank you for your kind attention.
Since we don't have a live audience, I'll do all the clapping. Thank you, Robert, for that really rich presentation. I really like how you explicitly show how the personal has to precede the local and the global connections. And you gave us a lot of examples about how we can personalize SDGs for individuals. I really also like that last framework you showed. That would be really useful, I think, for educators to further study and try to understand, possibly incorporate. Thank you. We'll now move to our next presentation, and I wanted to check if we should maybe do the first set of speakers, which has 4 people, if Vania has been able to connect. I do see James here. Hi, James. But I don't see Vania, so maybe we'll go ahead and move to Lucie and Chantal. Lucie is, yes, let me just very quickly introduce Lucie Weissova, that is the International Relations Manager at Jönköping University in Sweden. And Chantal Coté is an international strategist working at Jönköping Municipality. And we look forward to your presentation. Lucie, your presentation is showing as it should. So thank you. The floor is yours.
It's the biggest success of our presentation that we are able to share the full screen. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our session on strengthening the global community with local empowerment. My name is Lucie, and I work as International Relations Manager at Jönköping University in Sweden. And I'm also one of happy but tired PhD students from the Research Center on Internationalization of Higher Education at Universidad Católica in Milan. And today with me, I'm having my colleague Chantal.
Hello, everyone. Very honored to be participating to this presentation and to this conference. I work as an international strategist, as Mira said, at the Jönköping Municipality.
And as we understand that each internationalization at home journey is very unique and specific as every and each context is, so we would like to invite you on our internationalization at home bumpy journey. And we don't want you to get sick from this, so we chose to drive more stable road. And everything started actually with COVID. We decided not to depict here to not ruin this aesthetic impression from this slide, but it started, we've been fighting for the strategy on internationalization at home for many years, but it was thanks to COVID when internationalization at home received its institutional priority. But we were also aware that this top-down approach is not enough, and we need buy-in from all employees in order to implement internationalization at home. So we decided to organize the whole institutional virtual workshop because it was during COVID, and all employees, I think actually like 80% of employees joined this event, and we had discussion on joint vision, priorities, needs, and how can we move forward. And as we know that internationalization at home is not happening in vacuum, so we decided to invite even external stakeholders, Jönköping region and Jönköping Municipality. And it was thanks to this event when Chantal attended this, when we could find quite many synergies in our work. And one of those is cooperation on Certificate of International Merits, where Jönköping University students could act as social mentors for the European Solidarity course projects.
And let me tell you a little bit in brief what this project is all about. The municipality of Jönköping applies for EU funding for various projects, but for this specific project, it is funding from the European Solidarity Corps, a program that allows us to welcome 4 to 6 volunteers, European young people from age 18 to 30 years old, coming from the EU countries or nearby countries. The volunteers come to work for about 12 months in the municipality. They work in the youth centers that are run by the municipality. All their expenses for the travel and their stay in Sweden is funded by the project. And they contribute with their knowledge and ideas, competences, to develop activities to promote democracy for the youth that are attending the youth centers. And those are from maybe 10 years old up to 25 years old. The aims for the volunteers to come to Sweden or to come to our project is to develop themselves with some more informal skills and also help develop the youth by engaging them more.
Well, and during this cooperation, we also found many other future projects that we will also mention later in our presentation. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what is this Certificate of International Merits. It's a formal recognition of international and intercultural activities that students undertake during their studies, and it can be both at campus, outside campus, in the society, but it can also be abroad or combination of all. And students design their online international portfolio, and they decide if they want to attend the predefined activities or if they want to choose their own. So it's like students, they choose different activities, they get points for that, and then they make a reflection in Padlet, and examiner give them points for that. When I said reflection, it's a guided reflection, and it doesn't need to be only written one. We want to have creative students, so they can choose if they want to record video or if they want to like make some pictures and describe them, or they can choose how they want. It's not new idea with the certificate of international merits, because I think that some other universities in Sweden, they have it, but also in the US and Australia, you are maybe familiar with the term global citizenship program, for instance. But our sim, I think there are some unique features that we have. It's fully digital and it's interactive. So students, they can see each other portfolios, they can comment, they can engage with each other. And it's also, we don't force students to choose activity abroad, because I know that many programs, they do that. If students want to be part of this and get certificate, that they need to go abroad. But we really want to be as inclusive as we can. So students can choose, and if they want to do only at-home activities, it's totally fine. And also another very unique thing is this cooperation with municipality that we have around this certificate of international merits. To give you some idea what I talk about when I'm talking about portfolios, so you can see some of students' portfolios here. Is another one. So you see it's combination of videos, written reflection, pictures. And very different activities.
Thank you, Lucie. I would like to take you through a little bit what is internationalization at the municipal level, starting by talking about a little bit the strategy. The strategy is the base for the work with internationalization. It is approved and renewed also by the municipal council, which is also the highest political level at the municipal level. Internationalization at the municipal level in Sweden usually focuses a lot on possibilities for external funding. EU and the opportunities from Sweden being a member of the EU offers a lot of opportunities for the public sector to apply for funding, and we need to take advantage of this. This means things like where we can find funding to apply for project, different types of cooperation, exchanges of best practices, professional development, innovation on the municipal level, and also new ways to work. The SDGs are also very important, of course, in Sweden, and in the Jönköping Municipality, I can point out that a new political program was just approved by the political leadership to basically guideline the next years until 2030 and how we will work more in a more concrete way. But internationalization and cooperation across borders is a means to achieve and to reach those UN SDGs. Through internationalization, the municipality can impact the society and its citizens and stakeholders by raising awareness and knowledge of interculturality, openness, diversity, promoting also tolerance, and also strengthening democracy. The European Solidarity Corps project Again, just to outline again the role and the cooperation between the Jönköping University, the students are basically recruited as social mentors for the EU volunteers coming to Jönköping. The volunteers also have working mentors in their workplace, but we also feel that they have to have those social mentors in order to basically help their integration in our society. The cooperation between the university and the municipality is greatly strengthened by this type of cooperation, and we have many other ways to do that. And both the students, we can say that both students and volunteers also write guided reflections at the end of their cooperation, we shouldn't call it this way, but their friendship, I guess we could say. And the volunteers use basically a youth pass, which is a EU model in order to describe informal learning skills and also merits, while the Jönköping University students use the SIM model for reflection.
Well, to wrap up this short presentation, we know that there are several ways how to implement and work with internationalization at home, and often there is combination of different things that university applies, but we think that certificate of international merits can be one way how to align several, and as we know, often competing agendas at higher education institutions. And through certificate of international merits, we can connect both internationalization at home, but also internationalization of higher education for societies, but also work with sustainability and SDGs. And we have also we have been thinking about other projects that we could have with the municipality. And Chantal will tell you about some of the ideas that we got.
Well, it is, of course, sometimes with the help of EU funding, there are possibilities for youth projects to work together with the municipality, together between the municipality and the Jönköping University. We have a European week that we organize also every year in order to promote awareness, more awareness and more knowledge and more activities around the membership, the EU membership, and what it does and how it impacts society here. We also talked about synchronizing and our different international contacts, because we do have common interest in many different aspects in that sense. Strategic partnership is also very closely connected to those international contacts. And also we are planting basically the internationalization seed in the society, which is the important.
Yeah, because we know that internationalization does not start in higher education, but it can start already in preschool, and so we can build bridges from very beginning until higher education. So in that way we can make synergies in our internationalization agendas that could benefit both university staff and students, but also Jönköping city and Jönköping citizen. But we also think that it's the way how we can use resources in more effective way. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chantal and Lucie. It's really informative to hear your robust example of what internationalization could look like in higher education. I think your work is like paving the way forward for institutionalizing internationalization because of the provision of a certificate. And it's a very inspiring presentation. In fact, I was thinking I have some fear of missing out because I was not given this opportunity when I was in university. Would have been nice.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so we have our third and final presentation now, and I hope we'll have all the panelists here. I'm not sure, is it? But let me go ahead and introduce our set of panelists. Did Vania make it? Is she here?
I don't think Vania will be able to join, but I think James and
you'll cover.
His group will cover. Yes.
Okay, so I'll introduce three of you. So we have now the pleasure of hearing from a panelist comprising three people. So first is James C. Simeon, Associate Professor in the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies at York University. We also have David Huerta Harris, who develops international programs for the Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico. And thirdly, Hugo Cahueñas Muñoz, Professor of Law at Universidad San Francisco de Quito in Ecuador. So I think three presenters from three different places. Looking forward to hearing from you. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, and we will start.
And so, just one note, David, if you want to do it in presentation view, right now we're seeing it with this side panel.
Okay, sorry about that. Again. Okay. Still looking at the side panel.
Just waiting for it to come on the screen.
Okay.
I'm not sure if
we can't see it, David.
It's not showing. Now it is starting to show. We do see it with this side. Let's see if it'll change. No.
No, still in the side mode.
Yeah.
I already have.
Yeah, it's not a huge deal. I think we could do it.
You can try pressing F5.
That's fine. Okay, we will move forward then.
Yeah.
Apologize for this. Okay, at the beginning of 2020, universities around the world faced the challenge of having to reduce or even suspend face-to-face education, and with very short notice to rethink how to move on teaching remotely. Similarly, most study abroad and other forms of face-to-face international experiences were canceled or postponed. But the pandemic also provided growth opportunities, connecting many of us virtually and causing a paradigm shift in terms of how the teaching learning process and internationalization at home could look like. Due to the pressure faculty and staff faced while converting their face-to-face classes to digital formats, for the local students, lesser attention was placed on how the existing pedagogical experiences could be delivered more effectively within multicultural environments. Similarly, the urgency of maintaining some form of remote internationalization during the pandemic added pressure to international offices, often reaching out to academic departments and inviting their professors to participate in joint Zoom sessions with colleagues from partner institutions, but sometimes delivering lectures often in a conventional way, and with somehow limited opportunities for student engagement. Officers believed we're doing the right things, but the question if such forms of collaboration were the right thing to do.
Sorry, David, the presentation is not advancing on the slides. We don't have the slides. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Now we are. Okay.
Thank you. In our particular case, consortium networks such as the Hemispheric University Consortium and university-to-university partnerships provided the connections and virtual spaces to work together in finding innovative ways to cope with the pandemic challenges, resulting in the creation of a significant number of teaching learning internationalization initiatives, we call them also adventures, and making more visible the need of expanding the existing and urgently needed pedagogical interventions in the digital landscape. The collaborative culture of our group not only allowed the team the opportunity to express needs or concerns, but also to generate new ideas. And after the ideation phase, we were able to move rapidly to test and validate the collaborative virtual activities with our students. And by running several pilot exercises, we tested and improved several pedagogical interventions in multicultural settings. Our team initially worked on designing and implementing COIL initiatives that linked several of our courses during the semester. In the process, we learned rapidly from one another and discovered several patterns of success that will be discussed further in this presentation. However, the positive effects of the collaboration initiatives spill over into other areas, like new collaborations, shared initiatives, papers, conferences, etc. At first, doing simple things was hard, but over the time, things got easier, and it took less time to try, test, and learn new things. In the case of Tec de Monterrey, we had embarked in a very ambitious new educational model called Tec 21 that had 4 pillars: challenge-based learning, flexibility, inspiring professors, and a memorable experience. This allowed Tec de Monterrey to have a set of different courses of different lengths. And we had a 1-week course called Diversity in a Globalized Week that we were able to link with our partners from York and San Francisco de Quito. The diversity topic of the Global Week course allowed us for flexibility, and it was very elastic because we wanted the students to recognize diversity as an enriching element of their personal and professional work. We also wanted the students to be capable of integrating their acquired knowledge into daily coexistence in teamwork, showing also openness, interest, and disposition towards diversity. So it was a perfect fit to work with the course of International Law in San Francisco de Quito and Refugee Systems Protection of York University. We decided to work on a topic that was a transnational problem, in this case, migration and refugee protection, in a global challenge that needed local solutions. Different views allowed our students to understand different phases or aspects of the same problem. We also had the chance to invite several guest speakers and practitioners that were able to share with the students from the 3 universities. And we were also able to partner later on with other universities, such as Northwestern in the United States. James.
Is James' video on here, or did he disappear? I don't actually think he's signed on. Do you want to jump forward?
Yeah, probably Hugo can jump in. Yep.
Yeah, I can continue. So thank you, David. Learning online is different from person to person. There are some things that are done better online. In the collapse of the physical limitations of space and time that we had during the pandemic, it demands us to work online, as the picture shows. Now we are today just in front of a screen. But next. But in this learning is a social experience. And the first thing that we have to do is to break the ice, the ice-breaking activity. So what we did on these different sessions, on these different collaborations, is to try to make everyone comfortable with each other. So we have a Padlet, and on that Padlet we share personal aspects of what we do on our hobbies, or what do we like about movies. So it allows us to break the ice and to have the opportunity to meet people from other countries and from other cultures. Then we also want to work together. So we have to find an effective way to work together. and to work as a team. If we work as a rowing team, every one of us on the same in the same north, it allows us to get the objectives. So that's what we have been doing and what we have been working on during these 2 years. But also when we work, we must this work allows us to acquire knowledge and skills that require some reflection and understanding in order to achieve this learning. So what we did is first, as I said, the ice breaking. Then we have the opportunity to learn and about something new and to work on groups. And then the students gave us their conclusions, their reflections, and also they have the opportunity to build together a new knowledge. Everything sounds good till now, and now I'm going to talk about the critical aspects. After 2 years and after more than 2 years of online courses, students seem to be tired. They are experiencing what we call the Zoom fatigue, and they want to interact in person. Moreover, students seem to have a gap in their academic and personal development. Actually, not only students, but also professors, we are a little tired of virtual interaction. However, at the same time, students and professors, we desire to stay linked on this kind of activities as the GNL, because we seek to make friends from various countries, to make colleagues from various countries, to make networking around the world. And we also experience the benefits from working together as a virtual community. In fact, can we go to the next one? In fact, professors, we continue collaborating and learning. We right now, we are a group of academics. I feel that we are a community. When I went with David, with James, with Vania, we have seen each other for almost 2 years, and we have experienced different moments of our lives, even different looks around our hair. And actually, this method that we are trying to show you today, it's called Pechacuta method. And we learn together these methods in order to employ, in order to deliver this presentation in a different way and in an interested way. Also, another opportunity that we identified last semesters due to this Zoom fatigue and trying to figure out new ways to interact together, we had bilateral activities. For example, USQ and Tec de Monterrey, also York and Tec de Monterrey, also York and USQ, we have bilateral collaborations activities. This kind of collaboration allowed us to work on topics of common interest, such as climate change, and we find common interest on our communities. Also, in the case of Mexico and Ecuador, we have the same language, Spanish, so we can have this community together also with the students in an easier way. In the case of the work, for example, USQ and the legal clinic of USQ and York, we are working together on an amicus curiae in the Inter-American human rights system. So we are now identifying other ways of collaboration after these 2 years of virtual community. It is difficult now to strike a balance between these new interests, new approaches, and also the academic content of the course. We have an academic content to accomplish during the course. But we are trying to figure out how to keep this balance. And for example, we would like to continue teaching GNLs as part of the regular courses with a minimum grading, not a high grade for these activities. Also, we're trying to include on the normal courses as a GNL exercise in the middle of semester. So we say to the students at the beginning of the semester, you know, at the middle of the semester, we'll have this kind of activity and we will be preparing them for the GNL. Also, we are trying, or we think that the GNLs should not be too rigorous, and students demand to be more engaged on the interaction, on the cultural exchange than on the academic issues. We will try to promote non-synchronic activities for the theory, and synchronic activities for the interaction among the students. They would like to, it allows us to have a cross-cultural understanding and allows us to acquire collaborative online working skills, and it brings us the opportunity to have a reflective, self-direct experience learning. Thank you so much for your attention. Looking forward for your questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm back now. I don't know what happened. I disconnected.
Hi, James.
Do you want me
did you?
my slides?
Is
that possible, David?
I try to cover, but please feel free, James, to complete, because I just try to cover those topics on but please, I do if you can please complete, feel free.
Do we have time?
We are kind of running short on time, and maybe what we could do is have you be one of the first people to respond to the answers, and then kind of work in additional stuff from your slide that might have been missed out, if that sounds okay.
Okay, that's great. Apologies,
okay.
I don't know why I'm having technical issues. I should point out I'm not in Toronto, Canada. I'm actually in Arusha, Tanzania, which makes it even that much more challenging.
Okay, thanks for that context. Well, thank you for this last panelist or set of panelists for sharing your amazing collaborative work. I'm sure many people can relate to the pedagogical challenges you spoke about in terms of online learning. So it's really neat to see this innovative approach to how we can do teaching online differently. I also want to point out that I imagine it requires quite a bit of coordination, time, and preparation to pull that off. So congratulations on a successful course. So we've got just about, I mean, it's technically 8 minutes, but we did start a bit late. So if people are, I don't know, Helen can jump in if it's not okay to go a few minutes past, but as quickly as possible, I'll just share that, you know, I think from hearing these 3 very insightful presentations, when I think about internationalization, I understand that, you know, mobility was kind of the original thought around like how internationalization can happen. And I feel like we really moved beyond that with these 3 presentations, showing us how it can look very different, especially with the technology we have today. So I want to point out 3, I think, takeaways that I took from this panel, all the panelists. And the first is a very important focus and a welcome focus on curriculum. So this last presentation showed us, you know, how a tangible and like a partnership across borders, it in itself, in some ways, reflects value for diversity and differing perspectives, and it's like inherently collaborative. So some of the things that came to mind for me thinking about, you know, how do you balance different contributions to making a collaborative curriculum? And then, you know, I was curious about what reflective assignments might be included and how students are evaluated. Is it traditional or is it some kind of different? And then another thematic area for me across the presentations was on personalization and how we develop a global identity that's rooted in the personal. So in Robert's presentation in particular gave us a lot of examples about local empowerment. And then also Lucie and Chantal showed us various how, you know, you can give students activity choices and it's almost like they are constructing their own international learning journey and getting credit for it. And then the third focus for me was on looking at the use of digital tools to enable greater internationalization opportunities. And so we can include more students in this this experience. And that's kind of maybe the most obvious, because here we are in this global conference. But to me, those were just like overarching highlights. So I think we've heard a lot about the practice of for everyone's practices, and in that vein, I wanted to pose a particular question on to all of our panelists. Can you share a bit more about specific strategies that you use to help participants critically reflect or make meaningful connections between themselves and the SDGs? That's my kind of first question, and I'm going to jump in and just go ahead and share my second question, because I think it's kind of related. You can tie in your answer. So this is coming from my own experience working in the nonprofit sector, where Visions, the nonprofit I've co-founded, we have experience running service learning programs. So primarily we've done this with university students, and we've implemented this in India, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, and we're just getting started in Nicaragua. So one of my observations has been that a lot of times students we work with feel inspired, they want to help, they want to take action. But in that process, there's kind of a race to get active in this, and we sometimes fail to acknowledge that the SDGs are really rooted in problems that are highly complex economically, politically, and socioculturally. These histories have been at work for generations, and there is no such quick fix solution in development. So it's really a long-term game, and the initial, from my perspective, the initial work for anyone is to really get good at listening and try to understand a problem holistically. So I'm wondering, is this more of an American curiosity or a phenomenon, or is this something you also have experienced with students that I just described? Is it important to temper expectations? And maybe you can tie your answer into my first question, which was about how to create critical, reflective kind of connections between individuals and the SDGs. That's my two questions. So now we can hear from each three of the panelists, maybe an individual or two, and then we'll kind of wrap up the session.
Would you like me to start?
Go ahead, James, please.
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying that I had a wonderful experience, or it is a wonderful experience, working with my colleagues in the Americas. And as already pointed out, we have a partner in Northwestern University in the US, one in Mexico at Tecnológico in Monterrey, and another at Universidad San Francisco de Quito. Now, the SDGs deal with a broad number of really important issues. And I think incorporated within our particular GNL, we don't shy away from these issues at all. They're incorporated within it. We do the focus on refugees, and I'll give you an example of this. Gender-based violence, that was one of the issues that we addressed in terms of the Diversity in a Global Week. So gender equality is really important, of course, as part of the SDGs. The other thing that we've done is we've looked at SOTG, which is sexual orientation and gender identity claims. And you can make claims based on both of those things. So what we do to incorporate a reflective experience for the students. And initially we find that doing the icebreaker is really important, because you've got to develop those relationships one-to-one or within the group to be able to effectively work together on these kinds of projects. So focusing on something like the migrant caravan, looking at how people are trying to escape the violence and the conditions that they live in, and then seeing how they could form a refugee claim based on that. So what we do is we actually get them working on videos around those issues and whether or not they can actually make a claim for refugee protection on that. And I think that doesn't directly, give them the SDGs. It's an indirect way of dealing with SDG issues such as equality, such as social justice issues, such as gender-based violence, such as sexual orientation and discrimination. So we're not approaching it directly and saying, hey, you're working on SDGs, you're working at root causes that are resulting in forced migration. We're incorporating that, we're giving them legal tools, we're giving them analytical tools to actually do this. What we're hoping they're also going to do is take this away and embed a deeper learning experience for themselves, having gone through that exercise. So I'll start with that.
Thank you so much. How about maybe Robert, would you like to respond?
Sure, thank you. So on the first point about how to strengthen critical reflection and approaches, to keep it brief, one of the important parts in our strategy is to really connect learning to real world experiences. And that's either by, having students go out of the classroom and work with real examples, but there's many ways, of course, to bring real world examples, bring case studies from around the world. So there's international aspect in those case studies into the classroom. We also really like to use in our learning methodology images. We have large sets of photos that have, different relevance to a lot of sustainability issues. We bring those images in and use those as a starting point for discussion, and have it as a place where students can begin with kind of their own tacit knowledge and their own understandings of sustainability and begin to express those. One specific learning approach we use in relation to that is strategic questioning. So we have one activity where we focus on different lifestyle aspects: food, transportation, clothing, energy, housing, and we usually also include personal relationships as one of the lifestyle aspects. And then we ask them questions like, what is being consumed in this? Share them images. What's being consumed in these images? Where does the item being consumed come from? Who's been involved in making it? How does it get to you? What are the benefits of this consumption, but what are also the negative environmental impacts? And what are alternative ways to do this? And by going through a series where they kind of mind map this out, we try to get them to go through a stepped process for deeper critical reflection around it. That's a very simple example, but we have many different learning approaches we use. In terms of addressing the interconnections and the challenges of really understanding the Sustainable Development Goals, we see one of the big challenges really laying at kind of how we address the pedagogical aspect and really approaching strengthening interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary aspects in learning. If we keep learning segmented into separate areas of knowledge and don't have a overarching framework where learners can kind of bring those connections across different dimensions of knowledge, how can we expect them to understand the interconnections of complex social, political, environmental, economic, and cultural historical issues related to the goals? And so if we can begin to explore those connections in more meaningful ways and see how those different knowledge aspects work together, and even what we try to do is some of the different learning methods, some of the different forms of investigation, such as systems thinking, that we kind of usually start with that from a natural science perspective. But how do we apply systems thinking to understanding the social, economic, environmental connections? Then we begin to move into this more unified understanding, and that also helps to deal with the complexity of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I like when referring to your first bit, pictures speak 1,000 words. So that's really neat that you use images. I think that's a very strong pedagogical tool. And Lucie and Chantal, how about, let's hear from you.
Yeah, when it comes to the critical reflection, I would say it's also integrated in the reflection we ask students to write, but it's not maybe so specific as it should be. So it can be maybe one point that we can take with us for future improvements. And concerning your second question, we don't have, so I think in Sweden, the faculty-led programs are not maybe so widespread as in North America, but we also send students to middle and low-income countries, and there they also get experience many different things, and not only on internships, but also data collection for thesis and so on. But I think it's good if they come home super enthusiastic, and we don't want to temper this, because I think it starts with this enthusiasm, and then of course they will find out that it's maybe not so easy as they think. But if they lack this enthusiasm, then it will be very hard to keep students engaged in those questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Lucie. Did anyone from the first panel want to add anything? Because I know James spoke, but we had others. Hugo, are you raising your hand or no? Hugo, no. Okay. David, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, maybe just to add to what has been said, having the students in a video, but also being able to critically reflect on the end products of other students has helped us to make them think farther away on the different elements of the either case analysis or the solution they presented. And of course, at the end of the experience, professors at the universities have different forms of stimulating the students to do the reflection part. But we also use several tools like short surveys where we ask them about the experience. We also do scaled interviews with a few students to learn deeper about what they felt and what was their learning progress during the collaboration experience. So that I would believe that we're trying to use a multi-method way of making the students reflect not just on the content of their courses, but also on the experience and what is on how the experience is contributing to their understanding of diversity, of developing a wider global vision, even working with people from other cultures, which is critically important.
I just dropped in the chat a link to a site called veraschool.org, and this is the nonprofit school that my organization recently finished and completed, and we have a school running. We are looking for international collaborative partners, so anyone interested, please do reach out. With that, I would like to once again thank all of our panelists for the time and valuable contributions you made by being here and presenting and sharing with us. Thank you to all of our listeners. I'm sorry that we didn't have time to get to audience questions. I'm sure if you're interested, we can look for emails and have more maybe in the networking sessions connect further. A special thank you to Helen Valderrama for linking me into this conference, and it's really great to have experienced this with all of you. So thank you once again, and have a nice rest of your morning, nights, or evenings, wherever you may be.